So the Glasgow Film Festival is back again, and it's got some pretty interesting looking films on its programme. It's got some with some pretty big stars. It's got a lot of UK premieres. It's got some Scottish premieres. So I'm just going to run through some of the things that I like the sound of, and I'll probably try and go and see. So there's Angelina Jolie in Couture, which is about an ordinary woman working at the Paris Fashion Week. There's Father, Mother, Sister, Brother with Adam Driver, Kate Blanchett, Charlotte Rampling, and Vicky Creeps. And that's a kind of comedy drama. I think it won an award, maybe in the Venice Film Festival.
Jim, obviously, iconic director. The cast is insane in that.
One of the ones I'm really looking forward to is The Wizard of the Kremlin, which is about Vladimir Putin and his rise to power from the KGB. And it's seen through the eyes of a kind of Machiavellian young advisor. Now, Putin is played by Jude Law, which I think sounds quite unique casting. I don't know how that'll work, but he's great. And it should be an interesting story if it's told in a kind of way that's not trying to kind of make too many points and it's trying to kind of force something down your throat, but tries to do it quite authentically. Fright Fest is also part of the Glasgow Film Festival, and they've got a couple of good looking films on that. The Curse, which is a kind of updated The Ring kind of story from Japan. They've got Boorman and the Devil, which is about it's a documentary about the making of The Exorcist, the Heretic. Apparently was plagued with problems, and it was a bit of a kind of cursed film to work on. So it'd be quite interesting to see that documentary. Willem Dafoe has a couple of films on. There's The Birthday Party, where he stars as a billionaire in the 1970s who hires an island to throw a birthday party for his daughter. But there's a kind of a sinister feel to the place or the film. I don't know what happens, but I'll probably go and see it. Willem Dafoe is also in a film called Late Fame about a kind of washed up poet who never really made much of his life. And then when he gets older, he finds himself to have a kind of a cult standing among some young people. And it's that story. So that could be good because you've got a great actor in it. There's also a comedy, a British comedy called The Fall of Douglas Weatherford, which stars Peter Mullen as an actor and tour guide who loses his marbles. And it's a comedy, so it could be quite a lot of fun. Well, it should be a lot of fun. I'll probably see that. They have quite a lot of foreign films at the Glasgow Film Festival, but they also have a lot of British films and American films. One of the foreign films that interests me is Primavera, which is about a violin virtuoso in an orphanage, and the orphanage hires Vivaldi as her tutor. And it just looks such a beautiful film. It looks very, the word they use is sumptuous. It looks very sumptuous, so I'll probably try and go and see that. There's Midwinter Break, which is Leslie Manville and Kieran Hines playing a Scottish couple who go on holiday to try and work on their marriage, which has changed recently. So that could be quite good because they're good actors. There's The Last Viking with Mads Mikkelsen and a crime caper. There's One Last Deal, is Danny Dyer playing a sports agent, and it's a British thriller.
Films this year that surprised me when we were programming, definitely One Last Deal, which stars Danny Dyer. This film is very much a chamber piece. It's just him on screen for an hour and a half. He's in his office and he's a football agent who's trying to get one last contact for his star football player. And honestly, his performance is incredible. He carries that film for an hour and a half, and you're engaged and you're just genuinely so taken in by his performance. As I said, if it was Nicolas Cage in that role, people would be losing their minds over it.
There's a documentary about Marianne Faithfull with Tilda Swinton called Broken English. That could be quite interesting. There's a biop of Franz Kafka's life called France that I fancy as well. That's quite a lot of films. There's also Jailbroken with David Heyman. It's a British thriller, another British thriller, this time set in a prison. Apparently, a lot of it's set inside a jail cell, so it might rely a lot on his great acting or a great script, but it'll probably have quite a tense atmosphere.
The Good Boy, which stars Andrea Riseborough and Stephen Graham. Obviously, Stephen has got a lot of accolades recently for Adolescence, and has been This Is England and things. And Andrea has obviously been in, most recently Dragonfly, which got released in cinemas last year. Um, yeah, so a couple of things like that. Rose of Nevada, George Mackay, Callum Turner, who's Mr. Dua Lipa these days, and that's Mark Jenkins' sort of amazing time travel, tale that's kind of just very interesting. So some big names in that sort of sense. And yeah, I mean, the film festival, we try and you know, put things like titles like that in there, but also make sure that we, have lots of stuff in there that is, maybe not something that people would know about.
And of course, there's California Scheming, about two rappers from Dundee who confidence trick their way into supporting Eminem in America and pretending that they're more successful in the music industry than they are. And so they kind of get ahead by kind of faking it till you make it.
And also, there's another great film we're screening called The Plague, which screened at Cannes last year, and it's finally making its way to the UK premiere. It's directed by a UK director, I believe, Charlie Pollinger, and this film is set in a water polo camp, and it's about based around all these sort of tween boys who are learning to play water polo essentially, and it's an anxiety-inducing, film about just the horrors of being a tween essentially. And as someone who was a young boy at points, it really resonated with me. I read the synopsis and thought that sounds fine, but the sound design and the score of the film are incredible. In terms of on the big screen, it's going to be amazing, and it's just a real feat of cinema. I think it really surprised me. We have a great documentary called Being Bo Widerberg, who that documentary focuses on this Swedish director called Bo Widerberg, who kind of there's a lot of parallels with Bergman and things like that with his work, but he's someone that I never knew about. So watching the documentary is really interesting because I think it's a documentary for a cinephile, someone who really is interested in the people behind the camera. And he's a story I had never really known about, so that's an exciting one. I think Psalms of the People, which is a Scottish documentary about Gaelic psalm singing. I know nothing, but what a fun documentary. And really, you come away learning a lot about it, and the sort of main subject of it, John is really an interesting person, and what he does with his sort of psalm singing is really just exciting, and opened up a whole new world to me in terms of, oh, I would never have known about that otherwise. And that'll be a real fun one. That's directed by Jack Archer, who had done a Bill Douglas documentary that we screened a few years ago as well. So that's kind of his thing. He does quite a good job of finding these little stories and pockets.
So that's some of the films that I will probably go see, and I might go and see others. I'm not sure yet. But I think for me, they're some of the highlights of the programme. They're also doing a kind of tribute to Marilyn Monroe. It's 100 years since she was born, so they're showing a lot of her films just for people who won't see in the big screen. And she's wonderful, so some people will enjoy that. I'll probably not see them because there's quite a lot in the programme that I really fancy.